Once your mind has settled down and quiet, in the moment with the breath, then we can contemplate and feel how fortunate and lucky we are to have this precious human rebirth which is free from all the primary obstacle to practice the Dharma. And rebirth which have gathered all the primary conducive condition to practice the Dharma. Not every beings, not even every humans have those conditions. And this human life, precious human life, which has so much incredible potential, if we can utilize correctly, properly. If we are able to utilize full this potential, not only we can achieve happiness of this life, but we can achieve happiness of future life. Not only that, this life has the potential to achieve total freedom from the suffering and samsara permanently. Not only that, it has the potential to achieve fully awakened state, fully enlightened state. And to achieve our own ultimate happiness, and to be able to help others to achieve their ultimate happiness. So how lucky, fortunate we are to have this incredible, precious human life with so much potential. Try to generate the feeling of the joy, appreciations, gratitude in it, having this precious human life. Even though it's so precious with full of potential, but this life does not last forever. it will come, and one day we have to face the death for sure. Everyone who is born in samsara, no one can escape death. Everyone has to face that, including ourselves. Not only the life come to an end with the death, but we do not know when it might struck us. When the death is going to come is so uncertain, so uncertain. It could come in the next 50 years, 20 years, 10 years, next 5 years. It could even come in this year, maybe even this month, even this week, even before this week. There's no guarantee. There is no certainty when it might come. Try to feel that uncertainty and that end of the life could come anytime, any moment. And when the death comes, what helps us at the time of death and after the death is only the Dharma, nothing else. If there is anything that can help at the time of death and after the death, it's only our Dharma practice. Therefore, I must practice the Dharma as much as I can without any delay. Before the death starts. Not only I must practice Dharma, pure Dharma, not only pure Dharma, practice the Mahayana Dharma, the Bodhisattva practice. In order to liberate oneself and all sentient beings. And in order to practice the Dharma, we must be reminded of the practice all the time. Therefore, I'm going to listen to the talk and not only listen, whatever we find helpful and beneficial to apply and integrate in our everyday life as much as possible. May the activities of all of us coming here together during these 3 days workshop, giving your precious time, energy, resources, listen, to engage in discussions, reflecting, contemplating, meditating. May all of these become cause and conditions to achieve fully awakened state as soon as possible. So we can be greatest help, benefit to each and every sentient beings without any partiality and without any limitations. Okay, so then we do the refuge and Bodhicitta prayer.
Page 22. Page 22.
Sangye chodam ji chonam la chanchu padane kya soche dagi chöje gi beso nam ki chola penje sangye chupa sho sangye chodam sogi chonam la chanchu padane kya soche dagi chöje gi beso nam ki Chola penje sangye drupa sho sangye chodan sogi chonam la chanchu padu dane kyapsu che dagi chushe gibe sonam ki chola penje sangye drupa sho. Again, good morning, everyone. And again, it's nice and wonderful to be back again after, I guess, 14 years. Last time when I was, I think, 14 years, 2012. And I can see, recognize many faces from that time. And other time that I have met you in Kopan or some other place. And then I think there are some faces that maybe I've not seen before, seeing for the first time. And I hope this workshop will give you some energy, rejuvenate your practice, sometimes even though we have been studying for a long time, sometimes our practice can get a little bit kind of degenerated, or in a sense that sometimes we are unable to gain energy to continue to do practice or give practice. And sometimes, certain workshop, certain teaching, certain practice can give up that kind of the inspirations back, and you know, so that is at least the hope, you know. So the workshop, as you know, that you all have been given, you know, the All Encompassing Yoga Mind. So that is the topic of the workshop. And as it says at the very introductions in that, you know, His Holiness the Dalai Lama has been encouraging for all the students to meditate and practice on this topic. Especially, I think he has been emphasizing in the later part of his, you know, whenever he gave any kind of empowerment initiations, the commitment, a lot of time in the latter part was this practice. He didn't have much commitment of sadhanas, you know, or other practices, but this was the one of the main practice he always encouraged the students to do. Part of like commitment is to do this practice, you know. And so, and as at the very introductions of that, as he mentioned, you know, he himself do this practice meditations, you know, every day, every morning, and he has found extremely beneficial, helpful, and because of that, he also encouraged us to that practice, and because that will be also very helpful and beneficial for us as well. So, you know, all encompassing is, you know, encompassing the main essential practice of the Mahayana, you know, the method and the wisdom, you know. We can say there's two ways of saying, you know, the combining the practice or embodying the practice of conventional ultimate bodhicitta, and if we try to put it more easy, then, you know, is the wisdom, the method, because all the Buddha's teaching and practice, if we try to summarize contents, all the Buddha's teachings and practice, then they're all contained within those two, you know, the wisdom and the method. Some of the teaching and practice are related with the method, the loving kindness, compassion, conventional Bodhicitta mind, and some other. And other teachings are related with the wisdom. You know, in terms of some practice and teaching related direct meditation practice and wisdom, some of them as a foundations and preliminary to develop that wisdom and that Bodhicitta mind. Particularly all the teachings and the practice that all Buddha gave were geared towards develop those two minds. So in order to have a better understanding and to be able to do this practice meditation better, first we need to talk and understand each of them, and then how can we combine those two practices together? And then, and that is where it becomes all-encompassing yoga mind meditation, where the practice is to combine those practices together and do the meditation by combining both the wisdom and the method. And so I think we are going to be talking, today we are going to be talking about the conventional Bodhicitta mind. Tomorrow we can talk and practice on the wisdom, and then third day, then we talk about the combining those two practice, and maybe also we might be able to talk a little bit how we can bring those practice in our daily life, daily life. That these practice are not just only on the cushions, Sometimes we feel meditations. When you think of meditations, it feels like, on being in the cushions in some corner or part of your, but not being part of how we can apply our every aspect of the life, how we can bring those practice meditations, not only on the cushions, not only in the gomba, not only in your room where you have the altar, but to be able to bring at your workplace and in every different activities that we engage in, so we'll try to, hopefully we have time to talk about that, and also maybe also, introduce a little bit about in terms of the wisdom, understanding the emptiness, selflessness, there's presentation and understanding of the selflessness on different level by the different school of thoughts, not only school of thought, but even in the practice. So maybe we might be able to also talk on that, okay? So this morning I thought of, talking about the conventional Bodhicitta mind, to start with, what is Bodhicitta mind? It's a term, is a Sanskrit term, okay, Bodhicitta mind. Basically, Bodhi means enlightenment. Chitta means the mind of enlightenment. Sometimes the mind of awakening, because the Bodhi can be translated as awakening or enlightened. That's the mind of awakening or mind of enlightenment. But still, what does that mean? What does the mind of awakening or enlightenment means? Of course, we'll go more on that, but so that you don't get lost in the term. It means driven by great compassion and loving kindness. Out of great compassion and loving kindness, then the wish to achieve your best, your highest potential, the fully awakened state, so that you can be helpful, beneficial, to help sentient beings to liberate from suffering and to achieve their ultimate happiness. And that wish to achieve that your highest potential, the fully awakened state, and the wish to achieve that fully awakened state is driven by the great compassion, loving kindness, and that wish to achieve that out of the loving kindness, compassion, the wish to achieve fully awakened state is what we call Bodhicitta mind. because it's the mind that wish to achieve the fully awakened state, fully enlightened state. And that wish is not just for your own selfish happiness, but is driven by the great compassions and loving kindness in order to. So that is, to put it, that is the Bodhicitta mind. As material, in material's writing, as is mentioned, yeah, the Bodhicitta mind is the wish to achieve enlightenment. So Bodhicitta mind is kind of, having two wishes. One wish is to free all sentient beings from the suffering and cause of sufferings. That is where the compassion part comes. And then the other wish, in order to do that, then I must achieve this fully awakened state. And that is the other wish, to achieve the wish to achieve that fully awakened state. And so that is the Bodhicitta mind. And this Bodhicitta mind is the very heart of the Mahayana, the Bodhisattva practice. What makes someone Bodhisattvas or not a Bodhisattvas is not based on whether you have this wisdom or not, but is based on whether you have this Bodhicitta mind or not. If you have developed this Bodhicitta mind, then you are Bodhisattva, whether you have the wisdom or not. If you don't have that Bodhicitta mind, even if you have wisdom realizing emptiness, not only wisdom realizing emptiness, even if you have wisdom realizing emptiness directly, still you are not Bodhisattva. Still you are not Bodhisattva because you have not developed that Bodhicitta mind. But even you don't have wisdom realizing emptiness, but if you have developed Bodhicitta mind, then that person, that being become Bodhisattva. Therefore, the Bodhicitta mind is the very unique or the most essence or the most fundamental, the very heart of the Bodhisattva. Mm. And if one can develop that Bodhicitta mind, there's no doubt one will find much more joy and happiness in this life. Absolutely no doubt. And then, at the time of death, you can die very peacefully without any regret, without any regret, guilt, any of those negative feelings, with joy. When you look back, that you have been able to live your life with that Bodhicitta mind, that will give you a lot of peace, satisfaction, joy. So able to die, and after death, you don't have to worry anything. You don't have to worry, whether your teacher is going to pray for you or not, whether your teacher is around or not, whether there is enough Sangha to come and pray or not. If you can die with that Bodhicitta mind, absolutely you don't have to worry. Mm. Yeah. So you can face the death with such a peace, joy, and uh, and then after that, for sure you will have a better, higher rebirth, better conditions to continue your path, your practice. You know, nothing to worry about, nothing to be fearful about. Mm. And as you know, Shantideva mentioned, as well as the Kadamba master says, the practice of Bodhicitta mind is the most powerful purification. It is also most powerful to accumulate merit. And if you have studied the Bodhisattva's way of life, then in that Shantideva explain with the reasonings. I don't need to go all of that. Why this is how powerful, why it's so powerful practice to accumulate merit quickly and easily in a second with that mind. And also is one of the most powerful purification, as Shandeva um, um, give example, like the fire at the end of the universe, when the universe is destroyed by the fire, the power of light, which can consume the whole very quickly. Such is similar, the Bodhisattva same in terms of purifying the negative karma. It's most powerful, you know. Um, so, um, and it is this Bodhicitta mind, you know, that gives incredible self-confidence, courage, strength, inner strength. Often, Dalai Lama has been asked by so many different peoples over the years, how does he manage, despite all the challenges that he went through, the Tibetan people went through, continue to go through, despite so much pain and sufferings in the world around him, for him to meet everyday people with a problem. Everyone's coming with their problem, asking help, and to hear every day, to see every day, to experience that so much pain, so much sufferings. Despite all of that, how does he manage not to be discouraged, hopeless, give up, you know, tired, burdened, burnout, and all of that? His answer has always been one answer on Bodhicitta mind. The practice that the Bodhicitta mind is that. So all the strength that he has, the courage he had, despite all these challenges and pain and sufferings, is because the Bodhicitta mind. That is what gave him courage, the strength and hope, that does not become hopeless and discouraged. Because when you become hopeless, that is the worst. As long as you have hope, you always try to work to change. And when you work to change, change will happen. But when you stop trying to make differences because you become hopeless, then that is when you don't try to make things change. If you don't try things to change, the change will not happen by itself. And so therefore, that's why we need the hope. And again, with such practice, that is what, as and that is when you have Bodhicitta mind, where you are able to get alone with everyone. You might have differences, different view, different idea on different areas. Despite those differences, you will be able to get alone with each other when you have the Bodhicitta mind. And that is one of the reasons, like someone like His Holiness the Lama is able to connect with everyone, regardless of different political views, regardless of different status, regardless of different spiritual path. He is able to connect everyone in the same way because of that Bodhicitta mind. Because of that Bodhicitta mind, and then, And so that Bodhicitta mind attract, other people's positive energy. Your anger and selfish attract other people's negative energy. When someone is too selfish and when someone is too angry and so forth, it attracts person that energy, and then anger arises in that person. That person becomes more selfish. And then that too big energy make a big fire and makes things worse. On the other hand, when you have that kind of bodhicitta energy, and that it attracts the positive of the other person's loving energy, compassion energy. It brings the best, the good qualities of other persons. It attracts that. And when you attract that energy, and that person is also much more nicer than normal, better than normal. And so that is what you see. And I think many of you probably also are experienced and aware, that is what also Lama Soba Rinpoche does, wherever he goes, he's able to attract people's practice, those positive practice, because of his bodhicitta compassions, bodhicitta energy, And personally, one of the reasons for myself being attracted to Lama Soba Rinpoche and to have that kind of respect, devotions, is mainly because of Rinpoche's bodhicitta mind. You can see it, you can experience it, and that is what, for me, that was the one. Before I felt that, I didn't, even though I went to the monasteries young at Kopan, since I was 8, and even though we have seen Rinpoche, Lama Yeshis around, sometimes receive some teachings, empowerments, but still from distance, And then also, sometimes you hear about stories, but still it's not same hearing from someone else, But when I went in 2002, when I was the pilgrimage with Rinpoche in Tibet, that was the time like for 21 days that I was close around Rinpoche every day, very close, and to observe and to see and to feel that Bodhicitta, compassion, energy, that make the difference, some of my devotions, my respect, my feeling, because I could feel it, I can see it. I wasn't hearing from someone else. When you hear from someone else, maybe you think, maybe it might be their experience, or maybe something to do something, but you might not. And so that was that something attract and to have that unshakable um, devotion and respect, So, and that is how I feel. The reason why Rinpoche, His Holiness, and some other great masters, they were able to benefit and help so many sentient beings with so many different activities, incredible, so many beings, and they are able to do that because of their Bodhicitta mind. Because their Bodhicitta mind. That was the main, due to that their Bodhicitta mind. Mm. So, yeah. So how to develop the Bodhicitta mind? Okay. If the Bodhicitta mind is such a powerful, if the Bodhicitta mind is such a powerful um, attitude or the mind, can we develop that? Or do we need to be born with that? So from Buddhist point of view, those qualities, some you might be born with that because you have practiced in the past. In this life, someone might be born with those qualities because they have already practiced in the past. The quality of love, compassion, bodhicitta, those qualities from very young age, they embody those qualities, born with that because they have already practiced in the past. But others, they might not be born with those qualities because they have not developed those qualities, practiced and developed in the past. But again, those qualities can be developed in this life through practice meditations. It is not, it is anyone can develop that if we do the right meditation and techniques. Anyone can, if they follow those meditation techniques correctly, then, anyone can develop those mind attitude. Of course, some people might be able to develop easily, quicker, and some might take more time. But it is something, is not something impossible. It's a possible. So if it can be developed, then how to develop? What is the method to develop those qualities? And then there are different meditation techniques you find in a Buddhist writings, scriptures, teachings. Um, one technique is called equalizing exchanging set with others. And that technique is passed through Buddha Shakyamuni to Manjushri, to Nagarjuna, and Shantideva, and slowly to Odisha, then Tibet, then Lama Tsongkhapa, and then our lineage come from there. So that is how it's been passed, that particular lineage. And that particular practice, you find one of the most extensive on that particular method you find in Shantideva's Guide to Both Way of Life, chapter 8. Chapter 8, especially starting from verse number 89 or 90. In the chapter 9, at the very beginning, Shantideva explained about creating the environment, conducive environment for the meditations, external environment, internal environment. And then once he explained, then as he was explaining meditation topic or the object of meditations here is equalizing, exchanging self with other, the bodhicitta. And from there, then he go very extensive. So again, for those who are interested, just many of you have already studied and you are studying Guide to Both Way of Life at the moment, and it seems you have just finished chapter 8 and you are on chapter 9. Yeah. So still maybe a little fresh in your mind. For some, maybe we have studied before, heard before, maybe it might, but that is where, and that is where His Holiness Dalai Lama also encouraged us to, even in this, at the very beginning, that is to study. Of course, not only study intellectually, but also reflecting, contemplating, meditating on what you have studied intellectually and then put into the practice. So that is equalizing, exchanging self with others. I think that I'm going to explain this morning. And then, even though, and then afternoon, the other method, we will see. The other method is 7 point of cause and effect, and that particular method passed through Buddha Shakyamuni, materials, Asanga, and then Atisha and Lam Tsongkhapa, and then through our gurus. But there are two method. And in Lam Tsongkhapa's Lamrim Chemo, the great Lamrim, graduate path to enlightenment, then he combined those two practice. And then when you combine those two practice, then it can become even more powerful tools of meditations. But again, by using any of those techniques, one can develop bodhicitta mind. So, one can, by using any of those techniques, either by using the equalizing extensive, even by using that, one can develop bodhicitta mind, or by using the 7 point of cause and effect, one can also develop bodhicitta mind. For some people, maybe they find equalizing, exchanging self with the other more effective. Maybe they might be able to relate more strongly. They might find more effective. For some others, 7 point of cause and effect, they might connect more strongly. They might find more effective, but both method, is helpful to develop bodhicitta mind. So in terms of equalize, whichever method you follow, the foundations is equanimity. Without unbiased love and compassion, there's no way one can develop Bodhicitta mind. In order to develop Bodhicitta mind, one need to develop unbiased love and compassion, unconditional, unbiased love and compassion. And to be able to develop unbiased love and compassion, we need to have strong foundation of equanimity. If you don't have a strong foundation of equanimity, your love, compassion will be biased. You might be able to feel love and compassion for some, but you will not be able to feel love and compassion for some. And if you cannot feel same love and compassion for all sentient beings equally, then one cannot develop the great compassion and the love. That great compassion and love, then there is no bodhicitta. The great compassion is the main cause, root cause of the bodhicitta mind. And so therefore, the foundations is for both meditations, equanimity. And also we have to, okay, I don't want to. So let's not go in the equanimity, otherwise we'll, so but that you need to have the foundation of equanimity in order to develop bodhicitta mind. Then coming to the actual technique of equalizing and exchanging self with others, there are 5 steps of meditations. 5 steps or 5-step meditation, 5 point or step of meditations. The first step of the point of meditations is known as equalizing self with others. And in that meditations, we try to meditate, just as I want happy all the time, even in the dream, and I don't want any sufferings all the time, even in the dream, even the slightest suffering, no, we don't want. That is that kind of wish to be happy and not to suffer is innate. It's not something that we learn later in our life. Even the child, the newly born child, they want happiness, they don't want to suffer. Try to avoid anything that make them painful. The parent doesn't have to teach them, you have to, anything that is painful, they will try to avoid according to their understanding. Anything that gives them joy, they will want to have. That is innate wish to be happy and not to suffer. Born with that, innate. That is not something, many other things we learn later. But that is, so that on the basis of that, that is how we pursue our life, wanting to be happy and not to suffer, to fulfill that innate feeling, to fulfill that innate wish, feeling, wanting to be happy and not to suffer. So our whole life is to, pursue that. That is why we are running here and there everywhere with a hope, whether that is the case or not, at least with a hope that will give us more happiness by doing this and that. It will make us more happiness by doing this and that. It will reduce the suffering, it will free from the suffering. At least with that hope, that is what we are doing. because of that. So in meditation, first recognize that our own innate wish, that's what we all have, recognizing that, our own. And then we think, not me, but each and every sentient beings, my families, my friends, my colleague, not only my families, friends, colleagues, even the strangers that I don't know. Not only the stranger, even the people with whom we have conflict. Each and every human beings, each and every sentient beings have that same innate wish to be happy and not to suffer, like myself. Recognizing that is important. A lot of time we don't give enough time and we don't even recognize everyone has same equal wish to be happy and not to suffer. Just by having that awareness, with that awareness, if you can feel that person want to be happy and do not want suffering, just like myself, your mind will be a little bit more softer, less harder, more softer. If you cannot feel that, if you cannot recognize, you don't feel, it's hard to your mind to be softer, your mind more harder. Just by being, understanding, recognizing, and being, feeling that, it already started to make your life, your mind a little bit softer. So in that meditations, so through meditating on that, then feeling, on that fundamental level, all others is acquired later. Many of others, it was our our spiritual beliefs, our political belief, all other different things we acquired later, we learn later. But that one, we all are born with that innate. So that is the most basic fundamental level. So recognizing that on very basic fundamental level, we all are same and equal. So that is what you meditate on, so that you started to feel, we started to feel on that fundamental basic level, we all are same and equal. It's very important. That is why this meditation starts with that. In our everyday life, we focus too much on the differences, the secondary differences. We focus too much on secondary differences, which we have acquired later. And because we focus too much on those secondary differences, then we create distance with each other. We create distance with each other. And then it becomes very hard to embrace others, to feel compassion to others. Because the feeling of those differences that we focus on and that in our mind create kind of the wall, you know? And the differences, even you don't put effort to focus on differences, they just come very easily. It's so obvious there, And our mind is also very easily attracted towards those differences. Our mind is not easily attracted to the one sameness. Our mind is easily attracted to negativities. Our mind is not easily attracted to the positivities. That is why the positive doesn't become news. The negative become a news. In the world, if you try to think every day, every hours, between what is happening, more positive, more negative, they are more positive, but those doesn't become a news. Every moment, there are so many hundreds, thousands, millions of people helping each others. You know, on different levels, in different places, in different ways. That will not become a news. Okay? Someone hurt and harm someone, that will become news. One person's hurt and harm, engage something negative, that become news. And even if you see, when you look news headlines, something negative, your mind attentions attract very easily. You want to know what happens, you know, it attract very easily. And there is positive news, see it, but doesn't have same attraction. You don't want to find out details. And maybe maybe I will check later. Probably you will never check it, except the headlines. Is that the case? Yeah. That's so because our mind works that way. So the news, the publish what attract our mind more. So therefore, they, they, they produce more negative news because it attracts people's attention. People read about it. Positive news, people doesn't pay much attention. They don't read much. There's not enough view. There's not enough subscriptions, and so that is what sells. What sells is those negative news. Have you noticed that? Yeah. In your mind. I was always curious about that, I was always curious about that. Why is that our mind attracted to the self negativity so easily and not in way in positively? It doesn't attract the positive in the same way. Then I came across a one book. I think it's called Wired Happiness. Like the wired, wired happiness. It's written by, I forgot, some psychologist. And he has some explanation, and it was interesting. And I think I felt like sense. His explanations was about survival. Even as a human beings, we have developed that we don't need to be as so for survival, as so what you call alert, like those animals who live in the wild. They have to be all the time because they can be attacked anytime. For their survival, they have to be very alert all the time and always watching something to attack them. Something that can attack them. And because of that, even though we have developed much our brain, that still we have that over from that survival mode of that, and so therefore still our mind is looking more for those are danger or that are bad. And then in his writing, he talked about, yeah. So you have to consciously try to focus on the positive, because naturally it doesn't go in that way. Negative, it just go naturally. You don't have to put effort. But positive things, it doesn't go naturally, so you have to put effort to contemplate on the positivities, so to balance your mind. Otherwise, that's how our mind become negative about the world, about others, because the focus so much on negativities. Then it started to feel all human beings are bad people, even though it's not true. Even though it's not true, but slowly your mind started thinking, all these things are garbage, they are selfish, they are bad, and all this, and started to, and because of that, so so anyways, I got distracted. Okay, but I was talking because we are talking about the first meditations on focusing on this fundamental one equalness, on that fundamental level, that we all want to be happy, do not want suffering, we all are same, equal on that level, instead of focusing on the differences. And the more you meditate and contemplate on that we all are same, equal on that level, then you see less, you see and you feel less of the differences. Instead, you see more of same and equal. And when you are able to see more same and equal, you are able to treat them more with equalness. And if you treat others with more equalness, again, of course, we feel closer, and then also, our interaction, our relationship are much better. And as his own Dalai Lama always share, whenever he meet anyone, he always see them as I'm a human being and that person another human being, interacting as a human to human, equal, same. Not as I'm a Buddhist monk, I'm a spiritual leader, Dalai Lama, this and that, but he see them a human being, that he is human being, that person another human beings, both as human being to human beings. And I think that is one of the reasons why he's able to have such a communication and interactions with whomever he meet in such a positive way, because the other person can feel that too, that he's treating them as an equal human being and other human beings. For us, a lot of time, the gender sometimes come in the, sometimes the practice, sometimes the culture or race, all different what political parties or belief that you have, all, and that become cause for conflict and to not being able to interact, um, you know, positively. So this meditation is that. I think yeah. And that is why I think sometimes, meeting in person to person help. That is what a lot of, even in historically or even that, a lot of positive signings among different leaders when they have interaction one-to-one instead of from distant or from truth. Because when you meet as human beings, there's a different feeling and understandings. And then, of course, if you treat others as another fellow human being, same, equal, then it totally change perceptions and feeling, and that could have been for better communications and better understandings, And that we can apply that. Of course, we are talking about here develop bodhicitta, but that qualities that is very important in our relationship, in your families, with your friends, with your colleague, any part of the world, to be able to see that we all are same, and to be able to treat with that kind of can make huge differences. So that is what it means, equalizing self with others. Through such meditation practice, you started to feel that me and all sentient are same and equal on that very fundamental level. Are not different from me, I'm not different from them. We all are same, equal on that fundamental level, from that perspective, wanting to be happy, not to suffer. Try, when you try to practice meditate, you try with someone you have conflict, someone you dislike, whether it's the politicians or whether it's the individuals, The moment you feel that person that you dislike is just like me, another person, another human beings, another sentient being who just want to be happy and doesn't want suffering. Once you feel, of course, understanding is one thing, but you understanding through such meditation, if you can feel that, definitely you check it out, do that, definitely it makes your mind or heart a little more softer towards that person. Before, you feel much more harder. Now, even you cannot feel compassion immediately. Even you cannot feel compassion immediately, but your mind will start to become more softer. So, equalizing self with others. That's first point or step of the meditations. Second is meditating on shortcoming or faults of cherishing, the self-cherishing attitude, self-centeredness or self-cherishing, or selfish attitude, maybe that might be better. Selfish attitude, self-centeredness. And as Shantideva mentioned, as all the lamrim, all the lojons, as they all the mentions, all the sufferings, all the problem, all the conflict that is there in the world is a result of selfish attitude, self-centeredness. It is easy to us to accept that until it happens to us. And when we have conflict, there's nothing to do with my selfish attitude. It's all his fault or her fault, When it happened to others, it's easy to explain that. It's easy to see that, but when it happened to ourselves, it's extremely hard to see that I'm experiencing this conflict, this problem, this pain, this suffering, because of involvement of my own selfish attitude, the self-centeredness. Because our understanding at the moment is very superficial. That is why. We have some understanding from studying, learning, but understanding very superficial. That understanding is not profound. that has really, if we have that profound understanding, then every time some problem arises, every time conflict arises, every time we encounter suffering, we will be able to see, oh, this is because that selfish attitude, because that self-centeredness. We will start blaming others less. We will start blaming others less. We will start to walk with our mind because we see it is coming from my own selfish attitude, self-centeredness. So I have to pay more attention to that. So I have to try to reduce that. How to reduce that? Your attention will be driven inward. That need to work with your own mind. Otherwise, at the moment, because our understanding is very superficial, so the moment any problem, conflict, suffering, then immediately our mind goes outwards. Because of that, because of this, because of that, always something outside, pointing something always outside. Yeah. So again, of course, it doesn't mean, there are no external other factors that contributes for the suffering, for the conflict, for the problems. But the main factors is that, and again, we can have a different, the reason why we are unable to achieve ultimate happiness, fully awakened state, is because of that selfish attitude. Because of that selfish attitude, we cannot develop bodhicitta. Without bodhicitta, because of not having bodhicitta, unable to achieve the awakened state, the ultimate happiness. It's due to that selfish attitude, that we are still in samsara and haven't achieved fully awakened state. We are in samsara that we have not been able to achieve even, arhat. Is also because of selfish attitude, because of selfish attitude. Mm. Also, not having a better, higher rebirth and better experience is also because of selfish attitude. Due to selfish attitude, then we create negative karma. Due to negative karma, then we are unable to have higher rebirth and better experience, And so again, it is selfish attitude. And, even in this life, we can imagine certain conflict we have with other people in our life, okay? There have been many instances in our life where we had conflict with different peoples, sometimes even among our friends, families, and our colleagues and others. We have a lot of conflict, Check it out. Have that conflict be as bad as bad as it turned out if I didn't have selfish attitude? If my ego is not involved there, if my self-cherishing thought is not involved there, regardless of how they did, what they say, what kind of attitude they show, would the problem or the conflict be as bad as it is? Check it out. If you check it, the conflict will not be as bad as it turned out. The problem wouldn't be as big problem as it turned. But because there is clashes of two ego, it's the clashes of two ego. A lot of time we feel we have conflict because we have differences, don't we? But if you go deeper, If you go deeper, it's not because the differences. It is because of the ego. It is because of the clashes of two, self-centeredness. If the both doesn't have ego and self-centeredness, they can have difference and they can work out very well. They can manage the differences without becoming a conflict. It doesn't mean they will agree everything. They will still have disagreements on different issues, but it doesn't become conflict. There's a difference, but it doesn't become conflict. There's no bitter feeling. There's no harsh feeling to each other just because there's a differences. But there's a differences, and then when you have that ego involved and self-centeredness involved, then that difference turn into conflict, bitter feeling, harsh feelings. And that become the source of suffering, pain, and problems. Check it out, you can just imagine. You can just imagine, a lot of things that you had experienced in the past, conflict with others. If I didn't have my ego, if I didn't have my selfish attitude, would have been that painful, if you don't have ego, if you don't have selfish attitude, regardless how they treat you, you will not be so hurt. You can just brush it up. It's like wind comes here and the wind goes from here. You can let it go. You don't take it too personally. And you don't hold on that. But when our ego is involved, when our selfish then we cannot do that. Unable to do that, then we take it personally. We hold on them. And then that become hurtful, painful. And because it's hurtful, painful, then you see you are the cause of this pain and this hurtful. And then we get upset and angry. And then we argue, we quarrel, we fight. Even that person's, let's say, even that person's have ego, selfish attitude, and even that person treated you the way he or she treated you that way. But just imagine from your side, if you don't have that selfish attitude, ego, would that been so hurtful, painful as you felt at that moment? If you didn't feel so hurtful and painful, would you have acted the way you acted? And if you didn't act the way you acted, would things have been less problematic and not blow up the problem? Check it out, check it out. Then you can see how the teaching, they say how this selfish attitude is the root of all the problem. You can, with your own experience, you can see how that is contributing in your problem, in your pain, in your sufferings. Otherwise, some knowledge, information out there. Do you get it? Otherwise, the knowledge is in this book, somewhere there. When you try to really, put in your own experience with your own situation, and then you see, oh, I can see how my ego and how my selfish attitude contributed that. How it makes, why I become so hurtful and painful because of that. Because of that, how I reacted and so on, you know. And so it is, again, that is what we do meditation. Second point of meditation is to meditate on that and to see how this selfish attitude, self-centered, is the root to all the problems, all the conflict, all the sufferings, directly, indirectly, you know. Indirectly, for example, my physical issues, maybe not necessarily directly influenced by the selfish attitude, self-centeredness, my physical health issue, but indirectly, yes, because due to that selfish attitude, I created negative karma. I hurt someone, harmed someone physically, and created that negative karma. As a consequence, now I'm experiencing the suffering of that negative karma, which is, so indirectly is there, but many of them directly you can see. So some of them directly, some of them indirectly, but all the problem, all the suffering is very much rooted in that selfish attitude, self-centeredness, either directly or indirectly. Yeah, we have to do the meditations. So I'm only in the second point. So we'll see. Afternoon, maybe we don't have to go the others. We just finish one with one instead of just trying to rush and have so many information. Maybe even though I was hoping to finish this morning. I'm not good at keeping, always like that. Okay, we try to do a very short practice meditations. Again, try to put yourself in a right posture. Relax. Let go any stiffness, tension in your body and the mind. And let go of any kind of expectation from the practice, and just be open for whatever happens. With that openness, keep your mind to the breath, watching the breath. Then we can think, may this practice, meditation, become cause and condition to actualize the Bodhicitta mind within our mind stream and achieve fully awakened state, so we can be greatest help, benefit to all sentient beings. And then, try to recognize and be aware that we have this innate wish to be happy and not to suffer. from the very beginning of our birth. Even in the dream, we want to be happy and do not want pain. Now recognize not only ourselves, but all our families, friends, colleagues, strangers, enemies, all human beings, all sentient beings have equally same wish, the innate wish to be happy and not to suffer. That's what everyone trying to do to avoid any suffering, cause of suffering. Trying to relieve suffering, trying to achieve happiness and protect the happiness. And trying to accumulate whatever they believe is the cause of happiness. Everyone is just trying to do that. Even our enemy, that's all they're trying to do, ourselves. Try to recognize and feel that we all are same and equal on that fundamental level. And just as we have a right to be happy and not to suffer, equally each and every sentient beings, including the enemy, have the equal and same right to be happy and not to suffer. Again, try to recognize and feel that. And just as we have the potential to be happy and not to suffer, equally each and every sentient beings have the same and equal potential to be happy and not to suffer. and try to recognize and again try to feel that. Even though ourselves and all sentient beings wish to be happy and not to suffer, but we all struggle to find true happiness, even samsaric happiness, contaminated happiness. And we all continue to experience suffering, even we do not wish that. Certain kind of suffering, certain level of suffering. That is was due to the selfish attitude. Because we hold that selfish attitude so strongly and follow that. Due to that, we create a negative karma. Through that, we all suffer. And also due to that selfish attitude, that we continue to have conflict, problem. And due to all this conflict and problem, we suffer, we experience. Even though we all want happiness, we struggle because we cannot develop the cherishing thought for others, which is the cause of all the happiness. Due to not having developed the cherishing thought for others, we are unable to create cause and conditions to achieve happiness and higher level of happiness. Because all the happiness directly, indirectly come through cherishing thought for others. Having understood this selfish attitude, is the root of all the sufferings. And the cherishing thought for others is the root of all the happiness. From now, I'm going to exchange this attitude by reducing and inheriting selfish attitude and by cultivating and improving the thought for others. From now, by holding the cherishing thought for others as most dear, precious, even though oneself and all things do not want suffering or want happiness, but we all suffer, experience suffering, struggle with happiness. If we think of oneself as one person's, if we suffer is one person's, then good happens is just one person's. The others are countless, limitless. If others' sufferings, countless, limitless sentient beings suffer. If they achieve happiness, so many achieve happiness. Therefore, it's more important to work for the well-being and happiness of others as the first priority, instead of one being the first priority. Therefore, may all sentient beings, how wonderful if all sentient beings were free from suffering and cause of suffering. May they all be free from suffering and cause of suffering. I myself will free them from suffering and cause of suffering. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings have happiness, cause of happiness. May they all have happiness and cause of happiness. I myself will lead them to the happiness and causes of happiness. With that strong loving kindness, compassion attitude, as you breathe in, we visualize taking all the suffering and cause of sufferings of all sentient beings on ourselves, from black dark energy as we breathe in. Follow through our nostril, into our body and the heart, and destroy our selfish attitude in the loving kindness, compassion. So with that, you try to take all the suffering and cause of suffering of your loved ones, whatever sufferings, all the suffering, problem, as well as all the negative karma, delusion, obscurations. Then we take all the sufferings and cause of suffering, the negative karma, delusion, obscurations, all the neutral person, neutral peoples, and sentient beings on oneself. Then we take on sufferings and cause of suffering of with whom we had conflict, whom we dislike, have problem, our enemy. All their negative karma, delusion, obscurations. Then we take on suffering of all sentient beings, all their suffering and cause of all their suffering, negative karma, delusion, obscurations, on oneself as one breathe in the form of dark energy. And destroying the selfish attitude at our heart. And transforming in the loving kindness, compassion. Now, as we breathe out of that loving kindness compassion, we send all our happiness, all our virtues, all our positive karma, all the positive qualities. We send out in the form of white light energy with the breath as we breathe out, sending and giving solutions to their problem, relief and happiness to their problem, starting with our loved ones. Giving good health for those who are ill, whatever their problem. Instead of that, the then giving them positive karma, sending positive karma, all the spiritual realizations, and ultimate happiness, fully awakened. In the same way, we send again all our happiness, virtues, all the positive quality in the form of white light energy as we breathe out to all the neutral people and sentient beings. Them all the temporary happiness, positive karma, all the spiritual realizations, and ultimate happiness of fully awakened state. And now we extend that to those whom we dislike, have conflict, our enemy. Sending and giving them temporary relief, happiness, joy, peace, sending, giving them the positive karma, spiritual realizations, and ultimate happiness. Now we expand to all sentient beings of the six realms. We send them and give them as we breathe out all our virtues, positive karma, happiness, positive potential in the form of white light, energy, giving them all their temporary relief, happiness, joy. Sending and giving them all the positive karma, all the spiritual realizations, and the ultimate happiness of fully enlightened state. And imagine they all receive and achieve that ultimate happiness. And then contemplate. At the moment, it's just imagine visualizations. I haven't really released them from the suffering, cause of suffering. I haven't really, in action, lead them to ultimate happiness, cause of happiness. And I'm unable to do that as long as I myself in samsara just like them, confused just like them. Under the control of delusions and karma just like themselves. Therefore, in order to help them to free from all the suffering and cause of suffering, help them to achieve ultimate happiness, I must achieve fully awakened state as soon as possible. Therefore, I'm going to achieve the fully awakened state. And in order to achieve that fully awakened state, I'm going to engage in the practice of the Bodhisattva path. Then you bring back your attention to the breath. And we dedicate all the virtues that we have created to cultivate the Bodhicitta mind within the mind stream of one side and all sentient beings we have not generated, and those who have already generated, not to decrease, but increase more and more. Chanjo sem chorim boche ma ke pa na ke kyo che ke wa nyam ba me va ya kong le kong tu pe wa sho. Thank you. Enjoy your lunch. Yeah.